Hello everyone, it's Art Russell here at Think Twice on YouTube and thinktwice.me at wordpress.com. In today's video we're going to cover three topics as we move deeper into our understanding of our essential nature beyond name and form. The three topics are 1. Enlightenment, what is it? 2. My personal story, or at least part of it. And 3, some passages from a book entitled You Can Never Outgrow I Am by Neville Goddard. So let's get straight to the topics. So 1, what is enlightenment? Basically, to be enlightened, when enlightenment occurs, it means to awaken from the delusional belief that we are the person. Now that may sound very odd for those of you who aren't familiar with this subject. I know I certainly wasn't until it occurred. I'd never really heard about it, in fact. We've been strongly conditioned to believe that we are this character. And what enlightenment reveals to us is that we are not. Now, it's important to understand that to be enlightened does not mean just adopting a belief, becoming more spiritual, going to church more often, or a synagogue, or a mosque, or that type of thing, or ashrams, or reading spiritual books. All of those things, activities are fine, but it's not actually getting something that way. That would only be adding to the mistaken belief that we are the person. We want to see through the person, not actually add to it. It's also important to understand that awakening or enlightenment never occurs to the person. True enlightenment occurs when you see that you never were the person. So let's move on to 2. So my personal story, I was not actively pursuing spiritual path, although I was trying to improve the circumstances of my life. I'd gone through a painful divorce many years ago, 2006. I'd always been interested in deeper issues in life, but I was also interested in the law of attraction. And through my reading, I got to understand that these two subjects actually dovetail. So some of the details of my personal story, we don't usually talk about this because once you know that you're really not the person, it's as though it wasn't really you. But I'll relate some of the apparent events that happened. So there's a few that stood out. So after my divorce, I ended up taking some long solo motorcycle trips. That was part of my healing process. And during one of those, I believe it was in 2015, I was riding solo in Utah or Arizona. And I was probably feeling very lonely. There were times when I questioned, what am I doing? And on this one particular day, for whatever reason, it happened on its own, really. What I felt was this. I reached up with my hand to my right shoulder, and what I felt was this. It just clasped gently over it and felt so warm and real. And I didn't really know what was happening at the time, but I know that it felt good and comforting. So that was the first. The following day, I wanted to experience that again, and I actually did reach up to feel that I wasn't so alone. But that didn't occur. One of the next major signs, I would say, that occurred in my life occurred in 2017. I awakened in my apartment, or that's what it felt like at the time, but it felt like my perspective was outside the body. I was basically watching art. And for me, now, that's the way life feels as though it's occurring. All of this, my apartment, Art's body, are in the real I am. Now that lasted a day, and it was quite bizarre, but it was peaceful. Again, I didn't know what to expect. the process or this event, it's not really an event, but it feels like it is different for every one that goes through it. In 2018, in November, that occurred again, and this time it lasted for a month. It felt as though art was on automatic pilot. There was no real thinking involved. I didn't have to think, oh, I'm going out for groceries, or I'm planning my day, or those type of activities. It was just happening. I made purchases. I bought a lot of spiritual books at the time. I was just watching it happen, going, wow, here's a few $100s going out for books. But anyway, I just watched as it happened, and I was grateful that it did. And then that ended after a month, as I say. And then after I retired from my career as a paramedic in late March of 2019, about a month after that, I started having those similar experiences occur again. They would occur for like a day of being what I called in that, but you're really not in it. It just that you don't have the separation of the belief of the false self, that you're the false self. So that has lessened to the point where you know more of what you really are. It's often described as the peeling of an onion. You peel away the layers and you get down to, you find that there's nothing there. And the Bible even relates that type of thing. I'm not sure if it was Jesus relating this, but he said, you will not be able to point low there or low here or low there to point to it, because it's spirit. Our essential nature is spirit. So anyway, there's the second topic, and let's get on to some of the passages that I hope will be useful to you from You Can Never Outgrow I Am by Neville Goddard. Now, Neville Goddard, I first came across some of his teachings through books about the law of attraction, because he did lecture about that subject, about how to help people manifest more thing-based life, of acquiring relationships or better jobs, better careers, better health. But I've read recently that he preferred to be referred to as a prophet. He, to the best of my knowledge, he lectured in the 60s, 50s, and 60s in the US, and he has a Barbadian background. So let's get to some of the passages here and see if they can be of value to you. So here's one of the first ones that I highlighted for you. I just got the book this morning. I've got many other of his books, but I continue reading with the hope of being able to communicate at least enough, or to spark enough interest that you'll take this and run with this as is necessary. I can't give it to you. Nobody can give it to you. But if you're curious enough and earnestly eager, as Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj stated, he said you had to be earnestly eager to find your true nature beyond name and form. Here's the first passage. He who sees me sees him who sent me. So that's meaning that if you really see deeply, you're seeing that this is a creation of our Creator. The apple does not fall far from the tree, is how I like to express it. It must have appleness in it. And we have Creator in us as our essential nature. Here's another passage. Falling asleep, we forget, and it doesn't mean at nighttime. It means for this incarnation. Falling asleep, we forget our true identity and worshipped idols. Speaking of God in the third person, and to Him in the second person, we have forgotten the God who gave us birth. Yet I tell you, God is eternally contemporary, for He is our awareness of being. Here's another one. The creative power of the world is housed within you now. Now, when we realize that the waking state, that reality, what we've been taught to think of, believe is foundational reality, that this world is real, when we understand that it's a state of mind, that it's occurring in, I describe it as a dream. Now, I know that sounds really out there. It's like, oh my goodness. But that's one of the easiest ways to relate this, to think of it as a dream. And in this dream, you are definitely not the doer. You're the knower and creator of this dream. Here's another quote. The body I wear is from below. I am in the world, but not of it. For the being who awoke within me is the one speaking to you now. It is not the same being who entertains guests in our home or enjoys dining in a good restaurant. For this being is not in any way a part of the world. This is the being in you that I am trying to reach tonight, trying to stir and awaken to return to the one grand I am. Here's another. As God unfolds himself within you, he doesn't call himself God, but I am. Our natural way of referring to ourselves in our language is I am. I'm going to the grocery. I'm going to work. Self-inquiry is when we look into the nature of the real I. Here's another. Millions of people claim to believe in God in the third person, but they do not know God. You see, that would imply being out from us. It's this separateness. What we're doing here in deeper investigation of our nature is we're collapsing that distance until we see that all there is consciousness. I'm comfortable calling it God. Some aren't, and that's fine. Awareness, consciousness. Only when God reveals himself in the first person, present tense, can he be known. That God cannot be outgrown or lost, for you cannot outgrow I am. Now, I'd like to end this presentation with a question, and it's rhetorical, and it occurred to me last night, maybe as a way of helping to communicate this. What does this mean when we realize this at our deepest level? It means that everything, this right here, right now, all of our dealings are holy. We are on holy ground. Bye for now.